Welcome in, welcome in, welcome back to another edition of Scattered Thoughts, where me, I, Sky, give you, you know what, every time I know what I'm going to say, like I have like an opening line and then I'm just like, oh, give you 10 minutes or less. And it's just like, I don't know, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes. And, we just say what we need to say and, we go from there. But we are for the second time ever, we are recording a live here, streaming on YouTube. If you don't know, now you know, baby. Okay. So if you're not already subscribed, if you're watching this, then you've come across my content somehow. But hopefully you subscribe, turn notifications on. We do currently, at least for season 21, with my life schedule, other responsibilities I have, we're only streaming on Wednesdays and Fridays. But again, if you subscribe, you turn on notifications, you have the opportunity to join in with us, potentially be a part of one of these live recordings of Scattered Thoughts. Yes, where'd you find this? We found it on the internet. And so, just kind of giving that little offering to folks just as we get started for today. But I'm looking through my notes. I'm going to stay focused because we are recording live, so I don't want this to go super long. But for today's edition, so again, Scattered Thought episodes come out on Thursday. Today's Wednesday. There's already Scattered Thoughts episode that I recorded and that I already planned to go out tomorrow. So this isn't going to go out tomorrow, but maybe next week or the week after it. But I still think the content is going to be relevant for a while until like Bungie addresses this situation head on. But today we want to talk about accessibility. So accessibility, we've talked about accessibility many times at this point. Again, we want to have an open space where folks can talk about things. Folks, if you don't know something, you can ask questions. If you have feedback on like something I say, this is just an open space. As long as you're civil, we don't always have to agree. We just have to be able to, respect each other and kind of come to a space where we're having dialogue. And so I say that because accessibility, weirdly enough, ends up being this like very taboo topic within the Destiny 2 community, because folks have a lot of feelings. There is a group of folks who we're not going to dwell too much time on, but there are a group of folks within the community who are very much invested in exclusivity, exclusive emblems, exclusive titles, exclusive thing, any way that they can gatekeep people from having a thing. There are people, unfortunately, in the D2 community, as well as, again, the gaming community and a lot of other communities who are just hell-bent on making that their reality. It's just like anytime Bungie offers a way for the game to be more open and accessible for more folks, although, again, there's still arguably a lot of places in the game where it's not accessible. But when Bungie does make strides to make the game more accessible in different ways, there are a lot of people who do push back. I shouldn't say a lot because again, I do want to acknowledge that there are those aspects of the community, but also, again, I continue to uplift that there are a lot of great people in this community, and so never want to downside that. But one of the things where I think actually Bungie kind of made a step backwards. If you haven't already watched my most recent video, well, it's not my most recent video, but it came out in the past like 4 days, where I did a quick breakdown called Bungie Bad Decisions. And it was just a breakdown of the new dungeons, Ghosts of the Deep, and just some of, again, I do highlight what is really good about the dungeon, but then I also kind of talk about a lot of my concerns. And this is kind of like, maybe not related, but like maybe like a cousin, like some distant relative of that topic, because in addition to what I talk about in that video, the other thing that, and again, I recorded like 60 plus minutes of content, and it's only like a 16, 17, 18-minute video. So there's a lot of things I cut, but I actually do want to continue to talk about. And one of the things I did cut, again, I say everything for a reason. One of the things I did cut was this kind of topic of accessibility, because one of the other changes that I had an issue with when I first saw it, but then when I experienced it for myself, I was like, this really sucks, is the fact that if you go into, again, withstanding all the asterisks in the world, I understand, I'm saying this up front, I understand fully that not everyone is going to solo dungeon. fully understand that. That's point blank period. I know that. The clear rates for people soloing and solo, especially solo flawlessing dungeons, is very low, right? It's not, again, regardless of how many hundreds of thousands of guardians there are, it's just not something that a lot of people push themselves to do. That is not a, that's not a testament to people and their skill levels. It's like some people just aren't interested in that. And also it's a good bit of pain. So I don't blame people. And so that's something you can opt into, right? Soloing jumping is something you can opt into. And so for the longest, up until this season 21, you have been able to start an encounter or start a solo dungeon experience. When you start a dungeon or a raid, you have a checkpoint once you get to different parts of the dungeon. And up to this point, you've been able to go, say you get it to the first and second encounter, you're soloing, it's taking a while. You need to eat, you need to grab some water, you need to walk the dog, you need to do whatever. What you used to be able to do is exit out of the game, right? Because checkpoints are checkpoints. You set out the checkpoint. You exit out of the game, do what you need to do, take a nap, rest up. And as long as you came back to that checkpoint and then finished and you were still solo within the same week, right? Within the same 7 days, you had 7 days to be able to complete it. And again, you could start and stop right at your own will. And so maybe you only had 2 hours one day, you tried it, got to, the second to last encounter. You need to, go to a wedding rehearsal or, like whatever case. Everyone has different lives. And so you could exit out of the game. That checkpoint will be saved at that point. You would still be solo. You still be solo vlogs or whatever your status was up to that point. Come back in the game later and then be able to finish. As of season 21, unfortunately, Bungie very slickly, it wasn't really pushed in the patch notes. Again, I read the patch notes, I read the TWABs, I read the Wednesday blogs. It really wasn't pushed at all, but it was this very minor change that they just kind of snuck in there. And part of it, I actually really don't like that it feels deceptive that they just kind of snuck it in there. But either way, they snuck it in there that, again, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially the language is that in order for it to count, you can still solo technically, but in order for it to count for any achievement or triumph in game, you actually have to do it in the same sitting, right? And so the idea being that if you at any point in time leave the game, it's over. It doesn't count. You might as well just restart. And so it doesn't matter that you got to the third encounter and you only had one more encounter to go. If you had to take a work call, if you had to go, talk to your spouse, if you had to go cook dinner, if you had to go pick up your kids, if you had to, whatever life threw at you, if you had to just go to sleep because it was just taking a while, if you left the game, you basically had to restart. So all of that effort, all of that work that you put in is absolutely gone. And while I can imagine, again, I don't know these people, but I can imagine there's probably some people in Bungie who's like, oh, this isn't like a big deal. Maybe they did it because there's some people exploiting some checkpoint thing that I don't know about. But ultimately, the ramifications being that now you're putting a higher, what's already a high pressure situation, you're now putting people in a higher pressure like box container. You're pressurizing it even more because people are then pushing themselves to get things done in a tighter window than maybe they usually would have. Now, for some folks, this isn't an issue, right? We saw people the first day, day one that it came out, doing solo, dungeon in one sitting. But if you're anyone like me who I have high anxiety, I have ADHD, I have a lot of life responsibilities I have to take care of, I'm juggling a lot of balls at any given time. The fact is, I liked having up to this point, I liked having the option of being able to say, you know what, my brain is tired, my hands are cramping up, I should probably stop, come back to this later. Is that still an option for folks who might want to, hop in the comments? Is that still an option? Yes, I fully acknowledge that that is still an option and that you can stop at any given point in time and then refresh, start over from scratch and do it again. But for me, it kind of goes back to this theme that I've actually said in a couple videos now. It feels like this increasing nature of Bungie just not respecting player time, that we're in a space where I can't even, like, it was such a simple thing that I could be able to just pause, even if it was just like cutting, shutting down my computer, turning off the game, going for a walk and then coming back, right? The fact that like you no longer have that extra ability to be human, to actually like breathe and like meet your human needs, drink water, go to the bathroom, do whatever you need to do, walk the dog, because you have to do it in one sitting. And this culminates into one of the examples. I won't say the content creator's name, but there's a content creator who I followed on YouTube for a while now. She's really great, really talented. And I saw this kind of, I have my own experience, but I saw this like exasperated, and if that's the right frame, but I saw this like in a very like prime, clear example in her case, where she is someone who like I consider, on top of the boss health and the other things we said in the bad decisions video. If you were curious about my opinion on that, go watch that video. But on top of that, on top of those pieces I've already named, I started watching her stream, right? Again, normally just kind of turned it on while I was at work. Super skilled. I feel like she's, if I'm like at a 3 in terms of like soloing content, if I'm like at a 3 out of 10, she's definitely like 8, 9 out of 10. She's like really skilled. She'll do solo dungeons flawless with no HUD on, like all types of challenges, like super crazy talented. Even she was having issues. I believe her stream stopped at like 23 hours. I'd have to go back and fact check that, but she was streaming for definitely well over 23 hours, just trying to get it done because of this setting. Now, granted, the dungeon is hard and there's other pieces, but I've seen her streams, I've seen her content before where like she started, like just like me and a lot of other people started dungeon experiences where it's like you go at your own pace. It's like, hey, put in 2 hours here, 2 hours here, and eventually you get to clear. When you get the clear is still the clear. Nothing is taken away by like me going and like taking a 20-minute nap, walking the dog, going out and for a walk to clear my head. Nothing from that experience, nothing of the difficulty of the dungeon is tainted by being able to do that. But being in a space where you have top tier people, like honestly, I don't even know if I'll ever be on her level. Like it's truly like something aspirational. But to see that even top tier people were like pushing themselves to these extreme bounds to try and get the solo done, knowing that this little change, that if you exited the activity, if you close down the game, it's over. And all of that time you put in is gone. That's why sorry, not sorry. That's just wild to me. And so I think there's just so much of that small decision that just adds onto the pile of like the glitches that have been happening, the exploits that have been happening, some of the community managers and some hot takes and some subtweeting, just a lot of things have been going on. And it just leaves me in a space where I'm just like, I'm unclear. Like, I love this game. I love the community, at least the positive part of this community. I love being able to have this space with folks and build and talk about, which class is better and have some friendly competition, all the different things that make this community and this game great. But when we have these little things, especially in the nature in which Bungie snuck this in, really didn't talk about it, and honestly, of all the other changes that they could have talked about, they already talked about armor tuning, weapon tuning. They had plenty of opportunities pre-season 21 to tell us about this change. Bungie doesn't make changes like these like on the fly. They just flip the switch. Is like, now you have to do it in one sitting. They think about these things. They take months and months of decision and planning, and then they implement them. And for Bungie to not say anything in a significant way, for me, feels deceitful, right? It doesn't feel completely honest. I'm not saying that they lied, but it doesn't feel completely honest. And it feels bad to be in a space where even myself, even though I didn't go 23 hours, collectively, I've made, at least in what I recorded, because some things I just got so frustrated, I just stopped recording. But in terms of like recorded, I have 19 plus hours of footage since Friday. Today's Wednesday, since Friday, for me to get the solo clear. I'm still working on solo flawless, but to get the solo clear, by the time I finished, I think I recorded the the bad decisions video when I had about 14 hours. So collectively, I still had about 5 or so. Again, it was more than that, but it was about 5 or so additional hours since that time. So 19 hours over multiple days, but 19 hours because like I just couldn't find a time because of life, because of other responsibility to like sit here and like grind out in one session. The ability to like sit here and do it in one sitting. That little bit of text, that little bit of coding change impacts me so much rather than look at the whole, you know, once a dungeon is released and having the full like weekly reset to be able to attempt it, rather than me like thinking like, oh, I can like take my time, I can do some seasonal content, I can cut the game off and go for a walk, rather than me feeling like I can be a full human and show up with my full humanity in this game, in this space, which I've been able to do. And that's literally one of the only reasons I've been able, beyond just like practice and working through it, it's one of the top reasons I've been able to clear dungeons solo and solo flawless up to this point, is because I've been able to take breaks. I've been able to actually like treat myself like a human, drink, you know, all the things, right? And so for me to be in a space where it's just like this feels deeply inaccessible. I maybe it was for a reason, but I just don't have clarity on what the reason is. And on top of this, it just continues to add to this like. I hesitate to call it a trend. Again, I really want to be as silver lining as possible, because again, Bungie hasn't spoken on it, and it'd be different if they had kind of said, here's what we're doing, it is what it is, get over it. And then I kind of feel a little bit differently, but they just haven't talked about it. And for me, I don't know if anyone on Bungie staff watched the videos, but like I really would love to get a very clear answer of why this change was necessary. What in the game code, what prompted, what in the internal staff discussions really pushed you to make the decision? Again, going back to what I said at the top, I understand very fully. You can go on Dungeon Report, you can see that like solo clears are a very small percentage for any dungeon, or even something as relatively easy in quotes, soloing Shattered Throne, which is a very old dungeon, very easy mechanics, very low clear rates in terms of like solo clear rates in terms of the community. And so I understand it's a niche thing, but like for me, these niche things, the way that Bungie operates in the small things, for me, tells a lot about how they think about and how they view players on the big things. And I don't feel valued. I feel underappreciated. I feel pressure to, I don't know. I feel pressure to, especially as a neurodivergent person. I just feel like I shouldn't be in a place where like my hands were literally swelling up. I think you could see it on the video. I actually have a clip that I'm probably going to post Monday. This upcoming, I don't know when I'm gonna post this video, but like next Monday from recording this. And the live stream file will be up. I'm going to post a clip, and you can see my hands are swelling up. My hands are cramping. They're swelling up. I was tired. I was exhausted. I was in good spirits because, the people in chat were like, and people who, sent me DMs because other folks knew I was really trying to grind this out. I really appreciate the good vibes, and the good vibes, as well as some caffeine, kept me going. But like, I felt like I just had to push myself. I wrecked my sleep schedule, like since the dungeon went out. And again, are those choices I'm making? Again, I can hear the comments already. Are those choices I'm making? Yes, I'm a whole ass adult. I understand those are choices I'm making, but also we can't sit here and act like I wasn't making the core point is I wasn't making those decisions prior to this change, because ultimately I tested the theory. I tried to get as far as I could, and go through it and like really try and do it in one setting. And I just was like, yeah, this is not going to happen. Because again, I was trying out different characters. I was trying to find what the rhythm is, all these different things. And it was just like, I'm not going to get through this. Like, it became very clear to me, on top of the boss health, and again, everything I've already mentioned in the bad decisions video, it became very clear to me very fast that like I would have to break a lot of my personal boundaries on like health and maintaining my like, mental health and all the different things in order to achieve the solo clear. Now, part of me, I'm a little bit stubborn. So I was like, you ain't gonna keep me from the solo clear. And so when I got the solo clear, I was happy about it. And, I was just like, F this game. And then I like came back and, we're here streaming again and we're playing the game. But, yeah, like for me, it's just very disappointing to see that change and see that Bungie really hasn't said anything about it, and knowing that there's actually a significant portion of the player base who have families, have different lifestyles. I know a lot of people who are taking care of elders in their family. I know people who are neurodivergent like me, especially big content creators who talk really openly about mental health. There's a lot of people who have different things and different boundaries, and to see that everybody is struggling, even one of the one of like the top 10 creators right now, who I think like easily had like 6,000 people watching his stream, he was struggling with it right as well. So for me, it's just like I feel justified because I know it's not just me, small growing creator who is struggling with these things and it's neurodivergent. It's not like, for me, it's like the super niche thing when you're seeing top tier creators, when you're seeing mid tier, when you're seeing small, when you're seeing people, gamers, creators, non-creators alike, struggling to get through this. Yeah, I think something has to change. Again, one part is the boss health situation and the moss and some of how the enemy damage is tuned, but like also I just don't think we can sit here and act like this idea that you have to do it in one city. You cannot leave the game at all. We're not gonna. I'm not gonna allow the community. I'm not gonna allow this space. I'm not gonna allow this moment to pass for us to just act like that's not having an impact on the way that people, including myself, are now having to approach solo dungeon activities because of that change. And so, ultimately, if you didn't already get the vibe, I do think it was a bad change. I don't agree. It doesn't feel necessary. It doesn't feel like you respect players. And it feels like, unfortunately, either you're trying to like squeeze every drop of player time out of players, which ultimately is going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead to people leaving the game. So long term, it's a bad decision. Or it was just a decision that, a team just kind of made, really just didn't think something of it. Maybe they were trying to prevent people from like cheating. Maybe there's like a side or reason of what they do. Again, that's why I'm keeping an open mind until like Bungie says something. Maybe there is a reason. I'm not a dev, right? So maybe there is like an actual legitimate reason that, like, because of the way that this mechanic was interacting with other pieces in the game, you had to like readjust these. I don't know. All I know is that Bungie hasn't said anything. The way they just slipped it in with all of the other changes of season 21. Again, I really don't mean this in a very harsh way, but it feels deceptive. It feels bad. And for me, knowing the kind of pain I went through, my sleep schedule is still messed up. It will probably be messed up for like another like 2 weeks at this point until I can like actually like get back on schedule. And again, I made the choice to push myself beyond those boundaries. I made the choice to engage in that way, but being pushed into a corner to like, that's the only way I'm going to be able to get a solo clear. That's the only way I'm going to be able to do something I enjoy in the game. Like, let's sit with that. That's literally the only way for me. And again, there are people out there who are, yes, I get it. People are out there like clearing it easy. I'm not one of those people. Never claimed to be one of those people. I do it because I enjoy the challenge. I do it because it's fun for me to be able to push myself and push my skill set in that way. And to now know that there's this additional accessibility boundary there, it feels bad. It feels frustrating. It feels confusing. And for me, yeah, I'm just, if this is indicative of these like small incremental changes are indicative of the direction that Bungie is going, I don't know that I see myself continuing to do solo dungeon content, even though it's legitimately just one of the most fun things I can think of in terms of my gaming experience in Destiny. And so, yeah, feels bad, man. But I'd love to know what your comments are. Again, I know soloing dungeon is a very like niche thing. I know a lot of people know about it, right? Because a lot of people can point to guides or point to, their favorite content creator or streamer doing it. But for me, in terms of actual completions, actually people like going through and doing it, I know it's still a very low percentage rate. And so for me, yeah, I love, to one, know experiences with solo dungeons. Have you done solo dungeon yourself? Did your favorite creator, put one up, or whatever the case may be? And then two, yeah, what do you think about this change? If you even notice that this change is there, you can actually look it up right now. When you go to look at the seal or the title, so under your journey tab, you can go to look at your seals and titles and look at any of the seals and titles. They've all been updated. And so, yeah, now it says that you have to complete it solo without leaving the activity. So literally you have to do it in one sitting and knock it out. Again, something like Shatter Throne, that's easy. Like you can knock that out like what, like 40 minutes? Like that's, if that, right? Like it's very quick. It's an older dungeon, easier mechanics. But as we've seen with Duality, as we've seen with Spire of the Watcher, as we've now seen with Ghosts of the Deep, the mechanics, the time investment, like everything is becoming much, much longer. And to add another barrier on top of already long dungeons, yeah, just doesn't feel like the move to me. But again, I'd love to know your thoughts. Agree, disagree, otherwise. Looking forward to seeing you all Starside and gaming with you all soon. Again, we are recording this live, so if you want to join us at Sky Shinobi at all locations, thankfully, at all, look at it, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Thankfully, we're at Sky Shinobi everywhere. And yeah, would love to engage with folks, answer questions, and be a part of the discussion. Thanks for your time.